Today's guest is Marty Miller. Marty is the VP of Research and Education at Superpatch with over 30 years of experience in sports medicine, performance enhancement, injury prevention, and education. He holds a doctorate in health sciences, a BS in sports medicine and physical education, and an MS in exercise science and injury prevention. He is a certified athletic trainer and holds various certifications from the National Academy of Sports Medicine. Marty's career includes roles such as minor league athletic trainer, director of fitness at Ballin Isles Country Club, and the New York Yankees' first Director of Performance Enhancement. That's pretty cool stuff. Stay tuned as we delve into his expertise into the world of health, fitness, and sports medicine.
Welcome to Simply Walk the Talk. Our bodies and minds adapt to what we do most of the time. If you want to change your body and mind, you must change what it is you do most of the time. This podcast explores all things health, wellness, fitness, lifestyle, and biohacking. Stay tuned as we explore various thoughts, methods, and experiences from a multitude of conversations between our interesting guests and experts through many fields of work. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Simply walk the talk. Simply walk the talk.
Marty, welcome to the show.
Josh, I really appreciate you inviting me on here. I was excited when we mentioned it, and I think we're going to dive into some fun topics. And I've been around for a while, and I know you haven't been around as long as I have. I got 30 years, but between the two of us, we've seen and done a lot of stuff. So hopefully that'll come across as some good information to the audience today.
Absolutely. We love takeaways, and I think this is going to be an episode in which there's going to be a lot of takeaways. And I'll start by mentioning that you and I, we've known each other for quite some time. And I think we first met when both of us were doing a lot of work for Technogym. And for those of you that don't know Technogym, it's a very high-end luxury fitness manufacturer based out of Italy. And we had the great fortune of working with that company quite some time. And then, we all kind of went our separate ways doing different things. And then we recently bumped into each other at the what they call the NBATA, the Trainers Association of the NBA. They had this event during the NBA Combine in which we saw each other, and it was like, oh, hey. And of course, you were super busy, I was super busy, but we finally got a chance to reconnect, and so here we are. So how about we talk about your journey to kind of go from us never knowing each other to then all of a sudden reconnecting?
Yeah, no, it's an interesting journey for me. It's funny. My boys are at that age now where they're trying to start their careers. And it really brings me back to when I was, for me, 18, they're in their early 20s. But, I wasn't the best student in the world. I, was a young kid who focused on sports. School was, let me just do what I need to do to get through. But there was a day I came back and I told my parents, I know what I want to do. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, college. And they're like, oh, we didn't even know you wanted to go to college. And they're like, what is it? I'm like, sports medicine. And they're like, wait a minute, like that seems way up here from what you've been doing. But what happened was I'm like, I love athletics. So I knew my athletic career wasn't going to go to that level in professional sports, but I'm like, who doesn't want to work with athletes? So that's where my mind started to go initially at 18, 19 years old is I'm going to do something so I have a career with athletics. So I would have thought I was going to stay in pro sports my whole life. If you had asked me back at 19, 20, 21, 22, especially when I got hired by the Expos coming out of college right away, first job, things changed, right? But what I loved about it was that I learned very early that in the fitness industry back in around 1997, 98, 99, when I started transferring from sports medicine it was kind of the wild, wild west. So me coming out with an athletic training degree, understanding evidence-based, understanding injuries, I was way ahead of the curve at that time. But I also, I guess, had the vision that I knew fitness was going to be this massive industry that more and more people are going to want true science from. So that's kind of what gave me that precipice of, you know what, even though I'm trained in traditional sports medicine, I can take that knowledge of movement assessment, orthopedics, rehab, prevention, sports performance, and bring it into the fitness industry.
It's really interesting because there's a lot of foresight in that and maybe a lot of luck as well, right?
Luck.
But it's interesting that you were able to recognize that potential for what the future might hold.
Mhm.
And it was kind of similar to what I decided to do, because when I first graduated high school, I double majored in physical therapy and psychology. And I quickly realized that playing basketball, working 2 jobs, trying to do a double major, and also trying to have fun in college, it wasn't going to work. So I just exited both of those programs and went into communications. And then when I went from the junior college to university, I studied mass communications with an emphasis of marketing and advertising. And so it's interesting that nowadays social media is so heavily geared towards communications. I kind of feel like I lucked out into kind of going in the right realm, and then of course I minored in physical education. So it was very well rounded. I think we have very similar paths in that we chose something that we still utilize today, because how many people out there went to school and just feel like they can't even utilize their degree,
Right. No, that's critical. It's sometimes, luck, but I think like you said, sometimes you can be luckier by identifying trends, your passion, paying attention, and also being around amazing people, right? So
Yeah.
I started with NASM back in 2005. And true story, my goal once I learned the materials from continuing education, I fell in love with the material. But when I thought that I'd have the opportunity to teach for NASM, I'll tell you the truth, is I'm like, if I could be the dumbest person in that room, I will be much better from being around these type of people. That the rising tide raises all ships.
Yeah.
So I became an instructor. I'm still an instructor, 20 years later. And that has opened up so many doors for me, from meeting people like you, getting other jobs, but also having that that group of people that force you in a good way to challenge the status quo, to look what's coming down the line, to learn from what they're doing in other parts of the industry, these forward-thinking people. And this goes back to what I tell my kids. You become the sum average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So pick them wisely. So that was luck that I ran into NASM. It was luck that I saw that as another opportunity. I had to put the work in, but I knew that that's where I wanted to be. And that really helped, that continuing that evidence-based approach to now where that's the standard within the fitness industry.
Well said. Yeah, it's what I find just interesting when it comes to what you spoke about in terms of going to school, getting the education. I see that there's almost like this resistance in the world of fitness, right? Because nowadays, obviously, there's these social media trainers, right? There's people who just look the part, maybe know a few terms and can copy a few programs. And then there's people on the other end of the spectrum, like you, who went to school for it. And then there's people kind of in between, people like myself that may have obtained, I minored in physical education. And I think I learned more than anything once I actually got into the field. And that was when I started to obtain various certifications from a wide base. I didn't want to just stick into like one category. And that's what ultimately got me to where I am today. What are your thoughts on that, right? Like, do you find that, and I'm only asking you this because I know you're heavily involved with the programming and education at NASM, which is also one of the entities that I have certifications in. What do you see? Like, are you finding that you're cranking out really good trainers, or do you also find yourself considering the fact that like maybe you don't have to have a certification if you've already gone to school like yourself? So where's your stance on that?
Right. So I'm a traditionalist. I think education, well thought out education, is an investment. So even with your certifications, I get very frustrated when I see people say, why do I have to stay certified? I look at it 2 ways. I don't want to be in an industry that in a very short period of time, I'm going to have all the knowledge I need to know. That's not a very good industry. I want an industry that is always innovating, always finding new things. So do I believe that on-the-job training is critical? Sure, but quality on-the-job training is critical, meaning you're underneath somebody who has learned it the right way, that can teach it the right way. Doesn't just by means showing up and being around forever doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be better at your craft, right? So do I think that the certain degrees are going to give somebody a leg up? Absolutely. As a licensed athletic trainer going through that, I'm going to have a deeper understanding of the anatomy and things like that. Well, that doesn't necessarily have to carry over to fitness, but it still gives me a leg up. So, when I talk to my boys or anybody else looking at the career, it's like, hey, let's not just chase a degree to chase a degree. What could you do with that degree? Is the time and energy that you're going to spend in that degree going to elevate you? If you're just checking a box to have a degree, well, that's a different story, right? So, there is the value that you got to look at it. Now, certifications are great, but then also what continuing education are you getting? Because what I've seen throughout my career is everyone's on that 2-year cycle and they don't want to pay for their continuing education. And at the last 3 to 6 months, they're looking at whatever they can grab to get free CEUs. Well, what if I'm grabbing something that I will never use? Okay, I checked the box, but I didn't invest in myself. So I truly look at it this way. When I got my master's degree, at the time it cost me $15,000, $16,000. I had no idea exactly what I'd get from it. When I did my doctorate, I probably cost me $30,000+. I didn't know exactly what I was going to get from it. I had the blind faith that education and earning these credentials and degrees were going to open up doors for me that otherwise wouldn't open for me.
Right.
And it has, right? I wouldn't have gotten to be hired by the Yankees without that master's degree that helped me become, an expert with NESM's material. And when the Yankees contacted NESM, who was at the top of their list, I wouldn't have gotten my job with Techno Gym or Super Patch if I didn't have my doctorate. So to me, you got to pick and choose wisely. But I always view education, if you have a plan, in a lot of my other podcasts with NESM, my birthday's November 25th. At the end of the year, I take time out and I look ahead and say, where do I want to invest my continuing education money next year? And not spend, invest. And I know my career has been elevated because I've made wise choices, because I look at my weaknesses. I look at opportunities of where things are going in the industry, and I purposely pick education that's going to elevate my career. And I know I get my money back 100-fold. But when I see trainers just kind of get lazy with it, I could say it that way, and they just want to check the box, they're picking continuing education at the last minute that doesn't even really do anything for them.
Right.
So that's
well said. Well said.
That's the way I look at it.
I appreciate you saying that in the way that you did, because I'll be quite honest. I was one of those guys, like you mentioned. I was one of those people for the first couple of years when I was getting certified. I found myself being like, yeah, but I'm certified. I'm good, right? Like, I don't need to do continuing education and pay for it. But at some point, somehow, I didn't have a Marty Miller in my ear telling me what you just told me. However, I did start to understand that, wait, it's on me. It's on me to go out and get the education that I think I'm going to be able to utilize. And so that's when I started to, in fact, one of my first major certifications outside of NASM was the Vivo Barefoot coach certification. Like their early certifications, it was taught by Lee Saxby, who is he's very well known in the barefoot running space, great mentor. And from that, I started to understand that if I want to be the best that I can be, it goes way beyond just fitness. He was talking about nutrition. He was talking about spirituality. He was talking about, grounding and living a well-balanced life. And I was thinking, wow, I didn't really get all that in my other certifications. Right. Okay, let me see what else I can look into. Right. So I appreciate you saying that, because it also like chin checks me a little bit,
Well, one of the things that I don't know where I got this from. I would give somebody credit. I don't know if I came up with this myself, but you and I both have a martial arts background. So it makes sense to me, right? You have to earn the right to get to the next belt. And I remember my sensei saying this one time. I finished up my third degree, and he goes, now that you're getting your black belt, what that shows you is you learned all your tools. Now go master them. So when I look at certifications, I don't care if it's your NASM. I don't care if it was my doctorate. I don't care if I know an orthopedic surgeon. When someone hands you that credential and says you are now this, that means you're minimally qualified to start.
Yes.
Not maximally qualified.
Yes.
You're minimally qualified to now go start working in the industry.
Yeah.
And when you put your mind around that, I've got, a builder right now building my house. I don't want them minimally qualified. I've got, right. I've got, I go to my internist once a year. I I don't want them minimally qualified. I want them maximally qualified. So that's why you asked how long have you been doing it? Because where I get frustrated in the industry is personal trainers want to make a lot of money. Great. They want to be treated like professionals. Well, then you have to act like a professional, right?
Well
Because
said.
we would not want to go to a doctor who got their licenses in 1990 and has not kept up with modern science.
Right.
You wouldn't even consider that.
Right.
So if you want to be treated as a professional, you have to do what professionals do, and that's invest in themselves and continue their education and continue to grow. And that growth could be outside of science. It could be getting something in communications. It could be a business degree. It could be an accounting degree. It could be marketing, because those things might be where you need to elevate because you want to go down this path. For
That's
me,
right.
I've always kind of dug into the science realm.
Yeah.
So, but and again, if I think I know everything at 51, man, life's boring, right?
Well said. An analogy that I like to use, similar to what you just pointed out with the builders and things like that, is getting your driver's license, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, most of us understand that if we got our driver's license at age 16 or whatever, that's when we start learning how to drive. I mean, yeah, we check the box to be able to get the license, but most people are still a little bit nervous until they get those repetitions in, right? And that's how this thing goes. And to your point about personal trainers of today wanting to make all the money, wanting to do all the different cool things, one of the things I get frustrated the most with is how many people that come to me and say, I want to do what you do. I want to train celebrities, and I want to, run various gyms and whatever, right? And I go, okay, well, good luck, because, it's not easy. I know it might look easy. I'm probably doing my job right if I make it look easy, but there's been a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that goes into this, a lot of investing, a lot of losing money, a lot of, and it's never really losing money if you get to where you want to be, right?
Right.
It's just learning how to rework it. And I think when we're strapped a little bit in terms of financially or bandwidth of time or whatever, when we're strapped a little bit, sometimes that's when the best things come out, right? Trim the fat.
Right. It's funny. I got another quote. Now, this one's more of one, maybe there's other people have said it, because I've had that. I'm at the point now where my career looks like it's fairly established, and, it's, this is what I want to do too. So I always say, if you want what I have, will you do what I did?
There you go.
So for example, I just went home back to a small town upstate New York. My girlfriend and I were in town, and I took her to the minor league baseball field for 4 years, Josh. After working my standard job during the summer, right? If the team was in town, I'd go to the field at 3:00 after I got off of work. So I got up at 6:30, worked at a summer camp or doing things, etc. Went to the gym. I'd show up there between 3 and 4, and I would do the grunt work. I would run to the pharmacy for the athletic trainer. I would go get the food for the players. I'd stay late and do the laundry. So, because my boys are younger and my stepson, sometimes they're like, I don't want to have to do this. I'm like, when I was walking into Yankee Stadium, do you think I remembered the long nights? No, I didn't. When I was 19, 20, there's probably times like, oh, I'm tired. It's 1:00 in the morning. I got to be up by 6. But this is what I needed to do.
Yeah.
Because that helped me get my job with the Expos. That helped me get, all those things paid dividends, but sometimes you can't see it. So when I was back in the stadium, I would show my girlfriend, this is where I'd run around here. This is where I would do there. I didn't have any bad memories, right? During the time, it probably stunk. But I just put my head down and knew that that's where I'm at. This is what I got to do to get me to where I want to be. So it's very easy for people to sit back and see, I'll use myself as at 51 doing what I'm doing now, but it started at 18.
Or even earlier.
Right. And again, I wasn't a great student. So I had to get accepted into a sports medicine program where they take 13 out of 100 people. You don't get to get in, right? That you have to earn that right after the first year. And 87 people didn't make it. So on Friday nights, was I in studying when all my friends? Yeah, I had to make up ground for what I didn't do when I was a kid, right?
Right.
And I took it serious. So I get to play now maybe more, right? Because the benefits. But that's where it comes down to, that's where it goes back to find the 5 best people you can, right? Because those people, if you're aspiring to be like them, they know the secrets. They've been there. They paid the price. They'll help you. They might speed it up, but they'll also keep you level set and grounded. Say, hey man, this is the work you need to do to build those calluses. So when you're here, right, you get to enjoy that work. So I always am a believer. Maybe it's because of my age. There's no fast track. You can navigate a little quicker if you get around the right people, but you just got to lay those bricks, man. And that's not always the fun part. But if you do it right, and you put the good energy and effort in, when you look back, you'll forget it. I have zero bad memories of that volunteering. Zero. I'm sure they were there.
It makes the success a lot sweeter, right?
Yeah.
As they say. So I'm intrigued by, put that part of the bio in which you're touted as the first New York Yankees Director of Performance Enhancement.
Mm-hmm.
What makes me wonder about that is, was there not, first of all, you're only 51. We know your age, right? And how is it that they didn't have, performance enhancement director? Can you talk through that?
Fun story. So again, somebody's got to go first, right? So yeah. I'll preface it with, I was one of the guys with NESM before it was cool to foam roll. I'd bring a foam roll in the gym. I'd roll around on the ground. People thought I was nuts. I taught the first corrective exercise workshop. People just said, hey, what are you talking about corrective exercise? This isn't rehab. You just lift weights to prevent injury. We knew what we were doing was right, but sometimes the industry is not ready for it. So back in 2007, the Yankees had a traditional strength coach. Leg press, leg extension, leg curl was like the Yankee leg workout. So they reach out to NESM. They're like, we lead the league in injuries every year. We need a change. I go in. It's a long process during the off season. They interview 25 people, etc. So I didn't have a lot of the off season to build rapport with the players. So imagine you show up in spring training, the brand new guy, and you're bringing in a DMS, which is the massage guns that everyone uses now. But this is one speed. You plug it in the wall. You have foam rollers in the gym for the first time. You're talking about corrective exercise. You're talking about phases of training. Like phase of training, I have a workout. Like, what do you mean? Like, well, do you do stability? Do you do strength? Do you do strength endurance? Do you do power? Stuff that is so simple right now. Whoever's listening is like, what do you mean? This was 2007. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So another thing that happened in 2007, it was the first year they were steroid testing. So all I'll say is, imagine if players weren't having that advantage anymore, right? So you got this perfect turmoil of new concepts, movement assessments. I swear to you, you could see me on video watching people, they couldn't lift their arms above their head without certain injury, issues going on. I'd bring it into the orthopedic surgeons. They're like, I don't know what you mean. Did you know what his ERA was last year? I'm like, guys, I am not your sport coach. That person is a train wreck ready to happen, right? He's got no external rotation. He's getting all his motion from his lumbar spine. He's got an asymmetrical shift of the pelvis. Again, these terms seem commonplace now, right? They never had done movement assessments before, Josh. So imagine here comes me showing movement assessments. And players now, instead of thinking, oh my God, this guy can fix me, what we didn't think through was, this guy's going to cost me my next contract because he's saying I'm an injury waiting to happen.
Wow.
So the players that the Yankees at the time did not make my program mandatory. It's like the a la carte breakfast that you get downstairs at a hotel. You either take it or you leave it. You're getting charged for it one way or the other. My players, no injuries, because we were changing their movement. We were undulating their programs, right? We were doing things the way it should be done. Other players that were training with some names you would know in the media, if you go back to 2007, started getting injuries. Well, guess who got blamed? Me. So it was a short-lived thing, but I know I did the right thing. And I know we were just honestly probably 8 to 10 years ahead of sports performance. We were the coaches didn't understand it. Like, it was so bad, Josh. Like, I don't know if you've ever been baseball players. They're very traditional and they're very superstitious.
Yeah.
For years, the starting pitcher would do a 20-minute run the day after their start to flush. Well, first of all, they're using their arm a lot. So the soreness they get in their posterior rotator cuff, they honestly believe that running 20 minutes got the lactic acid out of your arm.
Wow.
So I explained to them, I said, guys, if you had lactic acid in your arm still, you'd be dead. Okay. That's muscle soreness from the rapid eccentric deceleration of your arm. How about we foam roll DMS? And they thought I was insane.
Wow.
Insane. Not like, hey, this is a new concept. But they were doing the Navy SEAL training, all that kind of stuff. It was crazy. So somebody's got to go first. And pioneers always have arrows in their back. I'm glad I did it. But looking back, I honestly, what we did was we just did what we were supposed to do, but too fast. We should have just kind of laid back and allowed a much slower transition. But I'm like, this is $250 million in 2007 of players. Why would I watch knowing that this athlete has a higher chance of injury?
Wow.
So
wow.
That's where, we were a little too fast, a little too ahead of it. I get it. I'm not bitter about it. It was a great opportunity. And I believe, it was a childhood dream. I was a Yankee diehard growing up, so I got to experience it. But the frustration was you knew that you knew, and you couldn't communicate it to enough people. And egos got in the way because you got other people that don't understand the science that are on the staff, right? So it was this juxtaposition. But now if you look at all these athletes, what are they doing? They're all doing their mobility work.
That's right.
They're all doing their correctives. They're all right. But cool. we were just 10 years too early, my friend.
Hey, it is what it is. And if you were still doing that, you probably wouldn't be here on the show talking to me, and you wouldn't have been at a combine or working with Techno Gym.
I believe everything happens for a reason, my friend.
Well said.
That's why I'm not bitter about it. It was an awesome opportunity. And I thank the Yankees for being courageous to try something different. And looking back, do I see where we could have made some changes to make it a little bit easier on the players to understand it? Sure. But you know what? You get one crack at these things with that level. But it was one of the best experiences of my life. And it was, I was supposed to be in, out, and on to other things.
So let's talk about Super Patch, because clearly you have a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience, and you're well credentialed. And so I think to the average person, now I obviously, with myself being in this biohacking world and health optimization, I see a lot of crazy stuff out there. Whenever I heard about Super Patch, for me, it was just like, oh, okay, cool. Here's something else to try, right? Mm-hmm. I think most people, though, who aren't quite familiar with this space would be like, man, what the hell is a patch supposed to do? So can we just start from the beginning?
I'm excited, man. I'm excited about this because I didn't need to come to Super Patch. I chose to come to Super Patch because of the science. And just how I said a little while ago, I was the guy that was very cool with going in and going and rolling around on the ground. I didn't care what people thought because I studied it. I knew the science. And guess what? You can't go into a hotel right now that's unmanned and not see a foam roller, right? So sometimes things take a while, but elite sports sometimes leads the way. That's why I like being around sports. So I get a call from Dr. Mike Clark, who was the founder of NASM, of the OPT model, as you guys would know it today.
Yeah.
And, he's the one that created the evidence-based approach to fitness. So he's been a mentor and a good friend of mine for 20 plus years. He calls me in December, goes, I got something you got to take a look at. Okay. If he calls me, it'd be like if you call me and said, there's something to take a look at. There's already a level of vetting, right? Because I know your standards and I know Mike's standards. So I said, cool, I'll do it. He knew the CEO for a long time on other products, etc. So I look into it. I'm like, all right, I'm interested. So the reason I came on board, and then I'll talk about what it actually is because my role is Vice President of Research and Education. Research is first. We have 6 published studies already. We got 4 more in the hopper. We just got picked up by the government agencies in the UK because our CEO, we know it works, but he's going to continue to lead with the research. So after I checked out the science, I'm like, that's the commitment I need to know. Because it is going to take some education to the general population because the science, just like when we were doing stuff with NASM, we're 8 to 10 years ahead of people. So what it is you'll see I've got some right here. And what it is it's a patch. And then we have 12 of them total. We can go through the 12 if we have time. But the beautiful thing is there's nothing in the patch. I'll repeat that. There's nothing in it. If you look close, there's a pattern on the patch. This made by 3M. It's, medical grade, hypoallergenic. So here's the crazy science, right? Josh, if you and I were in the same room right now and I handed you something hot or cold and you didn't look at it, you don't need to know to look. Your brain can sense that and tell you. dull, sharp, et cetera, et cetera. So the skin, being your largest organ, is always in communication with your brain, right? Our skin is not just to protect our organs and keep things out of our body. It's also to communicate constantly through the central nervous system to the brain. The other thing about the brain is there's 52 different regions of the brain that are responsible for different things. And sometimes they crisscross back and forth, but there's what we call neural networks. So a perfect example is I could wake up tomorrow and not be in the same mood I was in today. I might have woke up today with a smile on my face. Everything's good. Tomorrow I wake up, I just feel off, right? That's the body kind of keeping yourself in balance from a neurological standpoint. Or as soon as we're done with this podcast, I could get a phone call from my mom. And if something happened to one of my family members, all of a sudden my stress network gets wound up. You look at a firefighter, paramedic, police officer, they're going to live in a high stress environment. So they may always be in stress. You have some people who don't sleep well. You have some people like my mom who may have chronic pain because she needs a knee replacement. So all of these neurological things that are going on in the brain, right, could either be a physiological, psychological, or emotional signal, right, depending on what's going on. So what our founder was able to do as a passion project, because his mom had MS, he was a computer guru. So he understood coding and signals and all that. So after he kind of walked away from that, he poured his own time and money into this because he wanted to fix it, because he couldn't understand how the brain couldn't communicate to his mom's muscles, because he's like, it's a code. So very long story short, studied the brain waves, used a mathematical formula that's known in science, figure out the signal, map it back to those broad areas of the brain. And now you know what you're dealing with, right? We know that. Then through the skin, if I can stimulate the skin properly through mechanical receptors, and the key two are piezo1, piezo2, stimulate them, you can open back up that network to bring it back into balance. So that's homeostasis, right? Right now, our autonomic nervous system is controlling our blood pressure, our pulse, our hormones, all those things simultaneously. So sometimes the autonomic nervous system works really, really well. And sometimes, like I said, you have a bad day, that neural network that controls your stress is out of sorts. You know it, I know it, right? So once he discovered that you can create a pattern to bring that neural network back on, he was able to eventually over time create 12 different patches that you can use to bring that specific neural network back into balance or homeostasis.
It's amazing. And I fortunately, you were able to send me some, and I love trying this stuff out, like I mentioned before. And one of the first times that I had anything in my world that was similar to what you're talking about, and it took me a while to wrap my head around it until I understood this piezoelectric effect, especially through the use of like grounding and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I started to understand that, there are ways that we can get signals into the body via the skin. And one of the companies that I first sort of went down the rabbit hole with on this topic is Nucalm. Are you familiar with Nucalm?
Yes.
So Nucalm, they used to have this CES device that you put electrodes on your vagus nerve network, and you wear the sleep mask, and you have a gel to kind of stimulate other responses. And when I was using that, I always felt like it worked better because of the CES device, and I could feel the stimulation a little bit. And I'm also very well versed in the realm of electrical muscle stimulation, so it made sense to me. And then the company kind of out of the blue made a pivot to these patches, and at the time I was calling them stickers. Mm-hmm. And when you say to someone you're going to spend X amount of money, let's call it $1,000 for a set of stickers that have a design on it that go on your skin, they're like, wait a minute, no, I'll pay for the device, but I'm not the sticker thing, no way. And then you had to always like worry about like what happens if they get if you go through the security at the airport, will they get demagnetized? And you got to keep it away from all these things. And I'll be honest with you, like I just thought, okay, I know it works, but it's way too much, right? It's way too much to have to worry about. And then a few other companies came out with some NAD patches, which again is also pretty complicated because you got to take the solution and the powder and connect them and mix them up together, pour it on, deal with the sticky residue. Again, I was like, way too much. What I love about the super patch, it is that it's very easy, right? It's very, very easy.
Right.
So I'm saying this as a person who is just going to be completely honest. And, I still haven't tried all the different patches because I don't always deal with a lot of the things that they're designed to take care of. However, I do think first and foremost, it's worth everyone trying. Right. And so to your point about you coming on the scientific board, advisory board, you lead research, like this is something to look into. So take it from me. You guys want to look into this. Okay. But please continue.
Well, here's what I love about it. So here's the patch, right? I take it off and I just apply it anywhere on the skin. And again, there's nothing in the patch, right? We're the only one without a chemical, without any type of medication. And at retail, you're talking about $2 for a patch. So again, if you can wear a Band-Aid, you can wear a patch. So that's the beauty is if you knew what goes on in the brain, it is so complicated. But the beauty of it is the simplicity of the application. Not, you didn't overcomplicate it. Our founder didn't overcomplicate it like you're saying with the product. He was able to find a way to take very complicated science and have a very easy application, right? So that's the beautiful thing about it is all it does is that pattern stimulates the receptors, goes directly to that neural network and allows that network to come back in balance. Now, for example, I've got a friend who works with one of the, highly successful NFL teams. We'll leave it at that. High stress job, right? As a head athletic trainer, doesn't sleep well. Okay. So he's over 50s. So I was talking to him like, well, how long have you not been sleeping? Years. And you just went into camp, right? So you've got a longer term wound up network with someone who's a little bit older, more mileage, and now they're in a high stress environment. So our research shows it could take up to 14 days to get maximum results. Some people take the REM patch and within 2 nights, they're sleeping like they've never slept before. And they have the data behind it with their Whoop, things like that. So for him, I said, listen, let's combine it with the peace patch because some people get stressed out that they don't sleep. So when they go to bed, right now, all of a sudden their brain's going silly because they're going, oh my God, I hope I sleep well at night. So we've got him on a protocol of 14 days. I guarantee you, once he comes back off 8 to 10 days, that network is going to be unwinding day after day after day. Now you take a 17-year-old who, let's say, I'll use an example. I know some young women who have massive pain when it's that time of the month. That network isn't wound up for 35, 40 years. So they get immediate results when they use the freedom patch, which is pain. They put it on their stomach. You can locate that one closer to the source of pain because the signal will be stronger. It's almost immediate, right? So there's going to be some variability, but it's not the variability in the patch. Once you put a patch on, it's stimulating the central nervous system. It's who is it? Why is that network out of balance? For how long is it been out of balance? And how long will it take to unwind it? So another example is we have a patch that I love called Rocket. It's for male vitality. I'm 51. My endocrine system is not as good as it was when I was 31, right? So this patch, again, if I put the stimulation on my skin, we could see in a EEG that network is alerted, but it may take 2 weeks for my endocrine system to come fully back to what's my new optimal at 51 years old. So this is why we have the CSNO course, the Central Nervous System Optimization Continuing Education course, because we talk about the heavy science. We get people to understand the brain, the different parts of the central nervous system, what goes on in the skin, and how these communications go back and forth, right? So the patch, like you were just showing the Rocket, the patch will work right away, but if somebody in their 30s, it may only take 5 days, right? But the freedom patch, because it's more like the reptilian part of the brain, most people see results immediately. But if you have somebody who maybe has had fibromyalgia or chronic pain, because again, that network, I view it like my old grandmother's yarn, right? When she would knit, if it's just a little wound up and there's a kink in it, you can unwind it quick. But if that got all kinds of wound up and knots in it, it's going to take you more time to unwind that yarn. So that's kind of how these neural networks work. And then again, some genetics, jobs, age. But if nobody's like, we have a sleep epidemic in this country, probably the world, that's going to throw everything off, right? We know now, finally, people have stopped bragging. I only sleep 4 hours. Like, that's like you're committing suicide. Like, know, right? So the good news is we've gotten away from people bragging about that. But when you look at how poor most people's sleep is, that's going to cause all these other stressors, right? So for me, a reset is let's just start with better sleep.
Well said. And some of you may have noticed that, I'm showing some of this from the website, which is just superpatch.com. And I pulled up some of the ones that Marty was talking about. And then obviously I know this, but I want to make sure that people understand, because some people are probably already excited to try this with you talking about it already. So can you let people know how it works?
Yep.
Like how, do you put it on, you leave it on, you take showers with it, all those questions.
Yeah. Simple is it's a patch, right? So it's got an adhesive made by 3M, like I said. So just basic common sense stuff. If I'm going to use it, I'm better off applying it to clean skin. And when I mean clean, meaning lotions, things like that, right? Anything that's going to be on that skin that could affect the adhesive. So let's say, Josh, you came up to me and you were just starting to work out. I might use an alcohol prep, just kind of clean that skin off, soap and water, let it dry, and get a good contact on it. So if you're in your normal routine, you can shower with them. They're water resistant. So it just comes down to some common sense. So let's say I put them on at night because I already showered. I'm not showering in the morning. I'm not jumping in a sauna or a steam, and if I'm working out in a gym compared to outdoors in Florida, right, at some point the adhesive will have to break down, so they're generally, most people can get 24 hours with the patch. We're not recommending any longer because the adhesive can't be too strong or people would get a skin irritation potentially or wouldn't want to take it off. And two, you need to move it around because you don't want that skin trapped for too long. You want to be able to let it air, clean the skin, and move it to another location. So that's the general guidelines. And with the Freedom Patch, feel free to put it closer to the source of pain because that signal, that neurological signal, could be stronger. I have had people put it on their wrist for their low back pain, and that still works well. But again, we've got to figure out from research, there's different types of pains and different signals. So we just say to keep it simple, put it towards the source of pain. But, if somebody has a migraine, I don't expect them to put it on their head. Just put it on your upper neck, upper back, and it'll work.
Well
so,
said.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's very, very helpful. Again, there's a bunch of different formulas. So maybe you can rattle off a few, maybe of the more popular ones. Can you talk about the popular ones?
I'll kind of put them into buckets. So we looked at like a sports performance. You could put the rocket in there. I'm a 51-year-old athlete. Everybody's an athlete, right? You know me, I'm competitive. I want to work out. So that could be, like I said, that's for the endocrine system. Then there's the Victory Patch, which we're starting a research study at University of Arizona with their football team on force output. That's muscle activation and cardiovascular ability. Then we have the Liberty Patch, which was the first patch that our founder designed. That's mobility and balance. And that plays well nice in sports performance too, because if you're an athlete, balance, mobility. But that's also great for people who have gait issues, right? So there you got it right there. Then the REM could be in any of these buckets I'm going to talk about because, again, sleep is the best recovery tool. Then we have Ignite, which is for caloric expenditure. We are doing a study right now, and it's showing that it increases your resting metabolic rate by up to 25%. Free calories, right? Who doesn't want that? Then if I move more into the emotional side of things, we have the Peace, which is stressor. We just published a study on that. The results were phenomenal. Then we have Joy, which is just kind of letting you focus on the good things in your life when they come in. Then also Focus, to me, that could go back into sports performance. That could go back into work, wherever. It just helps you stay on task. I love that patch. So then when we move past that, we have a Lumi Patch, which is skin luminescence, which blows my mind. So during cellular respiration, part of the job of cellular respiration is to emit 10,000 photons per square centimeter of your skin. Look at somebody in their 60s versus their 30s. Most people, you'll see a difference in their natural glow, right? That's controlled by the central nervous system. So the Lumi Patch is kind of like that spa patch that people really like. Defend could go across the board because it's immune system, right? So going back to our sports teams, with their travel, with their overtraining, with being in small groups, who wouldn't want your immune system to be better? I have my mom on that patch, right? She's in her 70s. Of course, if she can fight something off better, that's tremendous for her. And as we get older, we know that our immune system is not as good. Then the other patch that's really fascinating to me is the Kick It patch. Now, I'll say it this way. This is the only patch you have to be a willing participant, okay? Any other patches are going to do what they do. So now the tag there is take back control like never before. So if somebody wants to change a habit, the patch can't do it for you. But when you look at behavior that needs to change, it goes from intention, thought, action, repeated action. So Josh, we'll play this through. So let's say you get a good night's sleep, 6 o'clock in the morning, you walk out into the kitchen, and what would you say your favorite cheat food is?
My favorite cheat food?
Yeah, like you're like,
Uh,
oh, that's kind of,
I mean, what,
it could
just
be
in
anything.
general,
Yeah.
let's say gluten-free pizza.
I said cheat food. Like that's even on the healthy realm. Let's just say pizza. How's that?
Well, because I have a gluten allergy, so
Okay, so
I would-
gluten-free pizza. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's say at 6 o'clock in the morning, you saw fresh gluten-free pizza. Are you more likely to walk past it at 6 in the morning and less likely to walk past it at 6, 7 p.m.?
For me personally, 100%. I'll walk
Okay.
past it in the morning.
Most people will say that, right? And here's why. Your brain is rested. The part that controls the impulses is not been taxed all day, right? You go throughout your day, you're making decisions of not yelling at this person. How do I get right? Eventually you come home and your brain is tight. Whether
Decision-making fatigue.
right. So when you walk by, see that pizza, what happens? You don't even think about it. Just subconsciously, you're just doing it, right?
Yeah.
So that's that repeated action. So what we have found in research, especially when it comes to addiction, and I saw this firsthand with my stepson. He comes in, 19 years old, he's like, oh, I'm like, what's going on? I'm stressed. It's been 3 days. I'm trying to quit vaping. I said, okay, come here. First thing I do is I put the peace patch on him because he's stressed, right? Next thing I do is I put the kick it patch on him. Don't say a word to him. I want to see this science happen real time. 20 minutes goes by. I said, Ty, how you doing? He's like, feel better. I need the nicotine. I said, of course, I didn't give you nicotine. He goes, but he kind of goes, but he goes, now I know that it's up to me whether I pick up that vape or not. So what happened was that patch allowed the brain to shift its focus in a sense, or the brain waves, and say, do I not want to? Where when that cycle is out of rhythm or wired incorrectly, it's just, let me do it. You don't even understand you're doing it. So that patch to me has a huge upside. We're excited about that for a lot of different reasons, because it could be something simple, just like, hey, at 8 o'clock at night, I tend to snack mindlessly. I'm going to throw the patch on at 6 o'clock. Or can we look at bigger issues, right? So that one to me is going to be a game changer, because people are struggling. And a lot of times they're struggling with some type of substance. And then sometimes either they have to go cold turkey or they're given another substance. So we've got a lot more work to do with that one, but that one is crazy science, but I saw it work firsthand.
Do you guys have a sex patch?
You could say for the men, it's the rocket right now. I always
Yeah.
joke. It's not the blue pill, because the blue pill is a one little part of the science where it's just rushing blood, right? Where if your endocrine system is up, what else is going to happen, right? Your natural, younger men, right, tend to have a higher sex drive. So will I recover from my workouts faster? Yes. Will I potentially have maybe less joint pain? Yes. Will I be in a better mood? Yes. Will I have more purpose and focus in life? Yes. Will I, fill in the blank, but would that be a side benefit to it? Absolutely. So you're not only getting that, but you're rewinding your endocrine system back to X amount of years ago. Everyone could be a little different, right? Because of age, genetics, and traumas and stress. But if I'm sleeping better, if I have less stress in my life, if I'm taking that, right, all those things together will ultimately make me my best neurological self. So one of the hashtags that I kind of came up with is optimum neurology equals optimum physiology, right? So if we can start with a level set of getting my neurological system to be at its best, anything else you want to go do is only going to be better anyways, whether it's fill in the blank, whether it's a workout, whether it's meditation, whether it's, if you need pharmacology, whatever you're going to do will be better when you've brought your body back into homeostasis.
So where's the weirdest place you've put a patch?
For me, honestly, it's probably just my lateral hip or butt, in the sense that it's not that I'm trying to hide them. It's just if I'm wearing 3 or 4, I need to move them around. And the compression holds it in well. If I'm going to be, like, let's say I go play 6 hours of pickleball, something like that, I don't sweat much in my lateral hip compared to some other people. So the common areas that you'll see on me is the inside of my forearms, right? Because it's a nice flat area. I don't have a lot of hair there. Hair is okay, but you wouldn't want to put it in a highly hairy area. I put them on my low back. I'll put them on my abdomen and then my lateral hips.
And so that makes me wonder, do you kind of have a guideline of like use no more than 4 at a time kind of thing, or what?
The only patch you could use more than one would be the freedom patch. Okay. And the reason being is what we've learned is pain's not pain, not pain. So when you look at it from a nerve conduction study, you cannot pick up the difference in a pain signal. They all look the same. But in an EEG brain scan, so close, but the pattern of inflammation from this versus trauma from that are slightly different. So we know that the freedom patch works for all sorts of pain, but down the line, maybe we'd have a secondary type of patch, because if we can isolate even more a unique pattern for, let's say, arthritis versus headache, right? We can maybe even improve the outcome. We know we're getting good outcome. So the other thing is you could have different types of pain going on in your body at one time. So let's say I had a headache and a low backache. I would put one on my upper trap and I put one on my low back, right? No other patch do you need more than one. So that would be the other thing too, with this football team that I'm telling you about, they got guys 6'8", 350 pounds. They may, just because of the pure mass of the individual, if they're dealing with shoulder pain, they might put one in the upper trap and one more like in the rhomboid, right? But that would be the exception to it. Could you wear all 12 at a time? Absolutely, because it goes back to the science we talked about at the beginning. Right now, your autonomic nervous system is checking your blood pressure, your heart rate, your pulse, your kidney function, your liver function, your heart. All that is being monitored, and they don't interfere with each other. Right. So it's not like I have to pick a patch. But what happens is sometimes when you start to stack these together, you actually get better results, right? So if I use the peace and the REM, well, my stress is coming down, so maybe that's not why I'm sleeping, right?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna leverage these things together. When I use the Victory and the Liberty and the Rocket together, my workouts have been stupid, right? Because I'm more mobile, I have better balance, my muscle activation's up, and my endocrine system's up. Yeah, sign me up. So you could use these in combination to get even better results. So the research, we've done our research patch by patch by patch. We are starting a study with the pain patch with the REM, the sleep. So we're going to start now. Like I said, why I'm excited about this company, we're going to continue. We're going to push. We're going to push. We're going to push. So the first combo study will be the pain and sleep patch together.
So then we've heard a lot about, the positive sides of this and the studies and the research and how to use them and the anecdotal comments. Great. Who is this not for?
Honestly, sorry to cut you off there because I get so excited. That's why I came to the company. They're for everybody. And what I say by that is, as long as you can wear a Band-Aid, okay? I've dealt with some people who are on really aggressive blood thinners and they have to be careful applying anything to their skin. Usually they have certain parts of their body where they can still apply something. If you can apply a Band-Aid, you can apply a patch. So the beauty is it's not dose-based, right? We're not treating medical conditions. We're treating the nervous system. And from there, you'll see better physiological outcomes. So there are no side effects. Now, you could say, let's say I put the peace patch on today. I might not feel any different. Well, what if that network wasn't wound up today for me? What's the worst thing? I spent $2, right?
Right.
But maybe I put it on knowing I'm about to go to a stressful meeting, and maybe I never got stressed because I had the patch, or maybe I wouldn't have got stressed. So those are type of things, but most people are going to pick one or two of the patches that they know that they need work with. Same thing with the Defend patch. I always put it on when I travel. Well, did I not get sick because I didn't get sick, or did I not get sick because I had the Defend patch? We'll never know. But the beauty is, why would I not, knowing the science, why would I not walk into an environment? And I'm not a germaphobe, but I'm not looking for exposure. Well, I'm going to get the exposure, but I'm looking for my body to handle the exposure.
There you go.
To do, it's called the HPA axis, my hypothalamus, my pituitary, and my adrenals. If they respond well, when I get exposed, I don't get sick. So why would I not, for $2, give myself the opportunity? Because you're going to be exposed at the MBATA, at trade shows, right? Do I wear the Defend patch every day? No, because I have a great immune system. But when I know I'm putting myself into an environment I'd be crazy not to.
Yeah. And I think that's, that goes back to that kick it patch, right? Creating good habits, right? Because there's a difference between trying to release bad habits, but also picking up good habits, right? And so if you can get into the habit of, even if the patch is a placebo effect to you, that is of benefit, right? There is the science. We do know that, right?
Right.
But we also know that that placebo effect is a part of science, right? It is what we measure everything against. And so whether or not having that patch there is just a reminder, right? That's powerful in itself,
Right.
Maybe some people don't think it's worth $2, but if you're not getting sick, or, you're having more energy than you would normally have, or you're getting out of this habit loop, that's a bad habit loop, I think it's worth it. So, and obviously at the end of the show, we're going to give people access to the program that you were talking about, the CNS program, which I think is great. So maybe we could talk a little bit more about that soon. And then also we'll let everybody know the best place to go and get some patches. You might want to try to get like a variety pack so you can see how they work differently and how they work in comparison or in conjunction with each other. So what do you think? What's on the horizon for Super Patch? I know you've talked about doing the studies with the dual use scenario, right? With multiple use scenarios. I know you talked about that, but what else do you see on the horizon?
Oh man, so much. So one, we're signing up some amazing partners. So we're going to get more results from the field, right? Pro sports teams, some major outlet retailers. So we're going to get more people using, which means just more feedback. And sometimes your customers give you a great idea, right? So that's going to be there. Number two, we've got now a 5-hour continuing education course called the Central Nervous System Optimization. The key thing is we need to, in this industry, not a lot of people know the brain, know the nervous system, know the skin receptors, right? So we want to lead in that science. Are there other things that could fall into that? Sure, meditation, things like that. But we need people to understand what we mean by central nervous system optimization. We've got 4 research studies that are underway. We've got one that is going to kick off, like I said, an IRB study at University of Arizona. And now we're in contact with the UK and their national health associations, right? Like high level government type of stuff. Because if we look at this, and I got a friend who works at Oklahoma State, and they're going to lead with research and then do stuff throughout the state.
My home state.
There we go. We want to make massive changes in the most amount of people with the safest science at the most affordable rate. So, I almost brought this up when we started. So one of the things, how your parents make you do things and at the time you don't understand it. They made me finish my Eagle Scout. One of the things I remember from Eagle Scout is you leave it better than you found it. That was always drilled into my head. So I've been saying since I was 25, 28, when I really made a change and got into the health and fitness side of things, I want to leave this industry better than I found it. That's why I did things with NASM and stuff like that. And that's why I did my Doctor of Health Sciences, not my PhD. I had to do my research, had to defend it, all that. But I figured out if there was never another article that proved exercise works, we'd probably have enough to say people need to work out. What I wanted to study is how do you get massive amounts of people to do it preventively, healthcare, not disease care, and do it in large numbers. So that's why I went more towards that Doctor of Health Sciences. So I'm almost right there now where I have something where we can educate thousands of trainers and professionals, athletic trainers, understanding we can neurologically give people their best version of themselves and let the body do what it does, apply even more cool science, and watch these amazing results. So that's the journey that I'm on, and with Super Patch. And that's why, like I said at the beginning, I chose to come to Super Patch because I found that avenue of education, science, cutting edge, and effective and cost efficient, and can be done on a large scale.
I like it. Yeah, I'm excited for what you have going. And I know offline we talked about ways we can work together with some of the stuff I'm doing with Vivo Barefoot and Foot Health. And then I also think there's other things that we can do together as well, because with my company System Fit, we do a lot in terms of electrical muscle stimulation, but then we also focus heavily on some of the recovery protocols. And so if we can, like you, I love kind of starting from the lowest hanging fruit. And for me in my career, what I've noticed is that grounding is one of the things that we should all be doing, whether it's indoors, outdoors, or both, or all the above. I think we should all find some way to do that. And then now we've got things like the super patch, and we've got, hopefully we have the ability to choose better foods to eat and to move a little bit more. And then that's some of the lowest hanging fruit. So why don't we use as much as we can so we can get the most out of life? Because I think people are kind of stuck in this rat race of just trying to survive versus thrive through life.
Right.
And once you get to a point where it seems as if you've been thriving, you almost don't want to go back.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I tell my boys, I got a grandbaby now. Life is so good. I've got so many things planned for this whole guy already. But I want to tell my boys, I'm going to live an incredibly active life, and then one day I'm gone. Right? I don't want this slow wind down of the quality of my life. Right? When we look at health span versus lifespan, there's too many things I want to do. Right? So yeah, I got to do my mobility work. I got to do my correctives. I'm good, man, because at 51, I can go play 6 hours of pickleball on a weekend aggressively. I can still go to the gym after that. I can go do whatever I want to do when my grandson's 3-4 years old. Like, that's what life's about, right? I've earned the right to get here now. I don't want to be like, no, man. Things can happen, car accidents. Okay. But let's use the body the way it's designed. We can push this thing a lot further, right? With the biohacks and the cheat codes that we got now. So I will go back to, I will invest in my education, and I will always invest in my health.
There you go.
Those two buckets are always going to get my first dollars.
There you go. I think that's a great takeaway. And people probably hear it and know it and like, yeah, okay, Marty, okay, Josh. However, take this moment to really let that sink in, because there is a big difference. Many of the people listening and watching, and ourselves included, we know plenty of people who just don't really want to wake up. And when they do wake up, they're like, oh, okay, here we go. It's another day. Whereas the people who are doing the most, that are excited about waking up, they tend to be the ones that are most successful.
Right.
And I'm not saying one outweighs the other, or that, there's a correlation is causation. I'm not saying that necessarily. But if you can focus on taking care of the things that you do have control over, then some of the things that you may not have control over might start to fall in your lap a little bit more often,
Don't question.
There we go.
I agree.
Yeah.
I like it.
So, okay. We've talked about your background and how you've gotten to where you are. We've really talked in depth about the super patch, and my hope is that people look it up, go try to find it. If you are very lazy, which is totally fine, and you want to just click on the links that we provide in the show notes, do that as well. One of the things that I would love to know is, so, all right, you're 51. You've done a lot. You're working in baseball and professional sports, and you're on the scientific advisory board for this amazing company. You've worked with Techno Gym. You've done all these things. What would you do if you could no longer, like, let's say the snap of a finger tomorrow, you can no longer do any of the things that you've done and that you're currently doing? What do you think your life would look like, and what would you be doing?
That's, it's interesting because there's so many things in the field of health and science I like orthopedic surgery and businesses. But if I had to give everything away that was health, wellness, fitness, I really do believe I would say one of the regrets I have is I never served. I love the military. I love the discipline. It fits my mindset. I like routine. I like order. I like protocols. I follow rules. So I've been asked many times, were you in the military? Are you like, so I like adventure. I like excitement. I like the physicality of it. So I have a feeling if I had to start over and couldn't do anything on this side, I probably would have gone into something, somewhere in the military. I'd be curious to see where they put me. I could see things like Secret Service, FBI, like that kind of stuff where you have to have the intellect involved. Everyone thinks they could be a Navy SEAL. You never know. There's only a few people that can cut that cloth. but do I love the service side of things? Because there's still some fitness in there, right? You still got to
course.
be in really good shape,
Yeah.
and then you got to have the discipline and the intellect and intelligence. So I have a feeling that if I had to, it'd be something like that.
Awesome. And I think that does it just getting to know you more and just hearing how you speak and what you represent and the values you have, I think that works perfect for you. But what you're doing right now is also very perfect for you.
Yeah.
So let's hope that doesn't occur. But I have no doubt that you will crush whatever you apply your mind, energy, and invest into. Yeah.
Yeah. The business side of things are fun now because, one, you're still around the science. Everyone wants to make more money, but I look at the business side of things as it gives you a platform to help more people. The money could be there, but it's not chasing the dollars. It's chasing the large numbers of people that you can affect.
All right. That's amazing. Is there anything else that you would like to mention before we start wrapping up? Because I want to make sure that I give you a full platform to be able to talk about this. And of course, we're probably going to be doing some other cool things together and might have you back on the show anyway. But for now, is there anything else you want to touch on?
No, what I would say is don't take my word for it. If you know me, I've had people say, hey, if you looked into this, I feel better. Great. That's an honor. But question me, question the science, dig into it, but dig into it. You know what I mean? Because there's always going to be a day where you're introduced to something for the first time. Have that inquisitive mind to be like, okay, there's some legitimate people telling me this stuff is good, but go dig into it. That I would be the happiest person if more people took the course, read the research, and played around with it, because I know what's going to come from it. I don't want you to just take my word from it. I'm around, I'm available, but I don't mind doing that heavy lifting, because sometimes people say, hey, give me the Cliff Note version of it. But you're never going to offend me if you question it, if you ask why this, why not that, why this. Let's have those conversations, because you're also helping me while you're helping yourself. You're helping yourself by being a critical thinker, learning critical thinking skills, putting the work in, but you're also helping me because sometimes I may have a blind spot because I know the stuff so well. I want to hear from you, be like, if I could address that, now I can get to more people. So to me, let's have those conversations. Hopefully we help each other, and that's the win-win.
If I could throw one little idea nugget, I kind of touched on it earlier, but we know that the sex pill industry is huge, right?
Right.
And I imagine if you guys came out with a pleasure patch of some kind, I'm telling you, you wouldn't have any problems.
Well, we kind of have it, right?
Yeah.
In a way, because sleep, right? Nobody does well when they're not sleeping well. Number 2, stress in relationships, in life. So if you can downregulate your stress. Number 3 is the joy patch. If you can understand, the joy patch is not that medication that makes you float like some medications do. You're not supposed to be in a constant happy mood. You're supposed to be receptive when something good happens. Most people are so numb to the world when something good happens. I joke, say, don't be the person that gets $100,000 and gets mad they got to pay $40,000 in taxes, right?
Right.
So, and then you've got the rocket patch for men. So neurologically, when those things are all clicking, you're going to have a better drive for life, right? So it kind of is there, but as we age, there are systems that tend to have more issues. So yes, the rocket patch is that for men. I have talked to our CEO. The women's neurological system is a little more complex. We're just not there yet. It doesn't mean we won't be there, but their wiring is different, which is great. That makes them the special people that they are. So we still got to kind of crack that code, and we're not going to put anything out until we know that we've gotten that. We have a couple other patches in development with some pretty cool stuff that I can't share yet. But do we know that could be a big driver for a lot of people? Sure. Has there been some thought to it and looking into it? Absolutely.
Well, I will. I'll do some home studies and let you know.
There you go. I'll send you some of the rocket. There you go.
Yeah. No, this has been really fun, and I'm very happy that you spent the time chatting with me and going over it, because I know it was several weeks ago and all been busy doing our thing, and I've been keeping up with your social media and what you're doing, which leads me to could you let people know the best ways to kind of be in touch with what you have going on and also the super patch? Can you tell people how to find it?
Absolutely. So easy way to get a hold of me is dr.martymiller72 on Instagram. You can find me through super patch as well. I do Instagram lives with some of our great people there. So that's an easy one. But hit me up first if you have direct questions, and then Super Patch Co. for company, Super Patch CO on Instagram. That's a great way to get a hold of them. Then you got superpatch.com. And then my email is martym@superpatch.com.
There we have it. This has been great. I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Same,
Thanks
man.
to the audience for hanging in there with us. And like Marty said, I'm so happy that he mentioned this, because I'm a huge fan of the same sort of notion, which is don't take my word for anything, don't take his word for anything. Just give it a shot, because who knows, right? Like maybe it does nothing. I saw that there was a money back guarantee thing on there. Utilize that if you need to. Utilize any discount codes that we can maybe offer. But at the end of the day, just try it out and see what happens. That's all I can say. So
dig through the science. There's the research articles embedded into the website, but you're also going to give them free access to the continuing education course. We have 30 supporting articles and then the 6 published articles. So there's plenty of reading to do if you want.
There you have it. Marty, thanks for your time.
Buddy.
Much
You're
appreciated.
Appreciate you. Take care, everybody. Appreciate your time as well.
Peace.
Simply walk the talk.
Walk the talk, talking facts. Move like me, but I move a little fast. Make my move, here to last. Fasten these seat belts, I'm coming past. Take care of me, longevity. Hack my biology, better believe. Walking the talk, soul, mind, and body connected. Better come give us a listen.